we found that the guys that tend to do best are already mailing a decent amount.
All right, guys. So welcome back to the podcast. It's Neil with High Voltage Business Builders. I have the honor of bringing someone on here that has discussed indirect with me through social media. You know how that works a lot. And we have this developed relationship over time where we don't necessarily know each other very personally. So I will lead with that to make sure there's no misunderstanding. But Chad and I have been around each other, been in the same groups, and I'm excited to have him on today. Welcome to the call.
Thank you, man. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate it.
So you want to talk about current events? I understand from our green room discussions. No, I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
You don't want to talk. Yeah, just go straight in there, man. Let's talk about what's happening today. But obviously, you know, in terms of your work, your line, your businesses, your email marketing, and other things you do, obviously you're probably covering a lot of topics some you do or don't agree with. Let's break down a little bit about what you do currently, and then we can talk a little bit more about who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, my businesses have kind of, you know, gone under different iterations over the years. Right now, I have primarily two businesses. One is an e-commerce business in the automotive space. It's the one actually we just hit the Inc. 5000, which is kind of cool to be on there. It's called The Last Coat. And the other one, the business, and, you know, transparently, I always say, like, so there, I have The Last Coat, and then I have the business that actually pays me my salary.
There's one that makes money and one to test, right?
Exactly. So, you know, nature e-commerce startup sometimes.
Yeah.
In that business, we've been affiliates for over 10 years now, you know, 2009. And in the last 3 to 4 years, since 2018, we've just been building out our own internal email list, just large lists. Funny enough, in the like the political kind of space, so even though I'm not too big into current events, that business is kind of relied on to a degree. And then, you know, the monetization there is we sell leads to other emailers and groups like that and that sort of thing. And we send out affiliate promotions, but a lot of it is list rentals. So companies like, you know, big financial companies, like you got the Agoras, you got FinPubs, all these guys, they'll come to us and they'll actually rent our lists out and we'll send out a drop and they'll assess performance and rebuy and whatever else. So that's kind of been it. Yeah, it's, you know, it can be considered a lifestyle business in some ways. Every once in a while, you know, there's a big ISP correction and then it's not a lifestyle business and we got to fix it all up. But it is what it is. Yeah. So
I mean, we're big on the lifestyle as a business, not business-driven lifestyle. It's one of the things I talk about a lot in terms of the way e-commerce can allow that for you. Obviously, there's a learning curve, and one of the things you and I were just recently talking about was, you know, list building for your e-commerce store in a conversation thread. Can you tell me a little bit more about where that went since our convo when we talked a little about list building in Amazon?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, the way I do it in e-commerce is a little bit different. You know, I know we were talking about the where you're kind of gating a coupon code and that sort of thing for Amazon and whatever else. We do a similar thing. You know, we'll send ads directly at a whether it's an email pop-up. We've also been doing a lot with SMS, so getting somebody to, you know, be an SMS subscriber. We just find the ROI on SMS is just, you know, really, really good. The response rates are fantastic. So we'll run traffic. It was a tip I kind of picked up from the Lions Not Cheap guys, and they were driving a lot of traffic right to an SMS you know, subscribe thing. So, you know, like a free plus shipping is what they were doing. Free plus shipping is a little tricky for us with our economics in that business because we ship pretty heavy liquids and whatnot. So, you know, we would do a discount code. We would just do a deeper discount code to get the SMS subscriber. And, you know, it performs well. And just right on the back, you know, awesome, just like you would anything else, just like normal thing, but just using SMS. Yeah. So works really well.
Yeah, we were talking about getting hooks in and lead generation, how to affect the Amazon channel from off Amazon metrics and traffic, and to bring out part of that combo. So for people who are listening, we were talking about, you know, direct linking, store linking, brand referral links, or other types of links to use for Amazon that would be most important. And the one thing I wanted to draw out from that for anybody listening is never send traffic directly to your Amazon listing. If you want to destroy your listing, go for it. Like if you want to go, you know, do something completely unethical with a competitor, I'm certainly not suggesting that. Then, you know, a few $1,000s of traffic on their listing will go do wonders. Not saying you should do that, by the way. But we always want to pre-qualify that traffic to some degree. And you know, we talk about getting email. Of course, capturing SMS would be cool. And sending them over. We find we don't even necessarily need to give them a discount if we just get locked into who they are and what they want and send them to Amazon to make that deal as part of that brand building, which is always fun. But of course, the lists and the asset, as they say, are the riches, right? And obviously,
Yeah.
it's funny in some degree always that we come back to email. Everybody's
Yeah.
like, so media, build this presence, do this, all this other stuff.
Mhm.
But it always comes back to having a conversation with people, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And so with with the last coat with that brand, our revenue has historically been 35% email. So whether that's abandoned carts, and it's funny because a lot of the guys who run email marketing agencies, they're like you should be at least 35%, or not even 35, those would be like 25, 30% email. And it was just a natural thing for us, really, just being mailers and
Yeah.
stuff. So we have pretty extensive abandoned cart chains. We have browse abandonments. We do all sorts of promos in our market. A lot of it is like we have a great relationship with the audience, but a lot of it is sale driven, discount driven, that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's about having that conversation, and we were really careful on building the brand equity in that business. Very, very careful with it, getting raving reviews, gamifying it to a degree, not faking the reviews. Obviously, we don't do that, but we might give somebody entries into a giveaway or something like that
Hmm.
if
Yeah.
if they leave an honest review. We're and if, we actually what we say is like whether you leave a negative review or a positive review, you're going to get entered anyway
Yeah.
into a giveaway. So sometimes you get
Yeah.
negative reviews, and we're like, oh, okay, well, it is what it is. It's
Well, I mean, it is what it is. You try to control as much, but at the same
yeah.
time, that just should motivate you as the ecom person to figure out what problems are being addressed there and how to actually turn that product back into the value of that statement, whatever it is it is. And sometimes you just get people who are just flat out wrong. They'll
Well, and,
leave reviews. Or,
it's just the nature of it. I mean, we have like over
it is.
15,000 reviews, and the vast
Very nice.
majority are positive, but you're just going to have some negative reviews. And what's funny about it is we've actually given away, um, somebody's won who gave us a negative review, and I don't know if they wanted free products at that point.
That's a good way to sell them back to come back and fix their review, right?
Well, because we actually use a random generator we
Yeah.
just put all the reviews in, and we just use a
Yeah.
random generator, and whatever we land on, they get it. So it's kind
That's
of
kind of
interesting.
funny.
Yeah,
So,
for
did
sure.
you ever execute the Amazon strategy you were looking at doing? Did you actually get that off the ground, or?
We're not doing it yet. No. So
Okay.
I'm probably gonna look at doing that. Amazon's not really a big part of our wheelhouse. Like
Mm,
it's like you know it's like a seven figure. Like it's there in terms of the business revenue and whatnot. But frankly, I'm not really much of an Amazon guy myself. Myself, all
yeah.
I've noticed on this brand, and I don't know if this is normal or whatever else, is that my Amazon sales will almost always tie to the Facebook or whatever else external ad spend to the Shopify store,
Yes. Yeah, they
right?
will. Typically, we see anywhere between 15 upwards of 18 to 20% of flow over from any paid traffic to the Amazon
Okay.
side, which will
Okay.
positively affect. So if you are spending, 10, 20, 50, 100,000 a month in traffic on
Mm.
that front end channel, you're going to see that other, 50 to 100,000 show up in Amazon.
Mm.
If you're available, search available, and people can actually find you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're spending 18% of traffic to let someone else buy that product on Amazon that's not yours. They went and
Yeah.
bought your competitor.
Yeah, for
We
sure.
call it found money. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, it's
But
that it's that halo effect, and we've kind of found we've that's just what I've noticed over the years.
yep.
We've been able to get it up higher. I actually try to have Amazon around 30 to 40% is what we've
Yeah.
been doing, right? Just because
Yeah.
in our market with the economics on our Shopify store, our contribution margin is much better on Amazon. So, we might be 30% ROI on Amazon, whereas on the D2C side, a lot of times it's at a loss. And then, a lot of times
Interesting.
it's just break even. Yeah, so that business is challenging in the logistics side of it because we are shipping very heavy liquids, and we tend to ship from the West Coast with the majority of our customers on the East Coast. Now,
Yeah.
why not just have multiple warehouses? It
Absolutely.
doesn't cut down as much as you'd think, right? And then so we also have a pretty killer deal with our West Coast warehouse on the actual pick and pack rates and fulfillment. And what that means is we end up almost losing that benefit when we go to other warehouses. So,
Yeah. Understood.
one creative thing we're looking at right now is actually using Amazon MCF to fulfill our Shopify orders.
Yeah.
I know
Absolutely.
that we'll see how that goes, but basically we would pre-kit everything into one piece so that when it
Hmm.
goes to Amazon, it's a one piece pick, and
Smart.
that'll bring down our shipping loss dramatically. So that could
Yeah, so
change a
people
lot.
MCF is multi-channel fulfillment. So in essence, guys, what he's talking about is using Amazon as a drop shipping warehouse,
Yeah.
a third-party logistics, which we've done in the past too. Because if you do some of the numbers sometime, and if you're
Hmm.
transporting some into Amazon and it's going to end up in FBA, and others you're maybe testing or you're wanting to fulfill differently, sometimes the costs don't they're almost negligible,
Yeah.
literally. And if you can open that product on Amazon while also fulfilling it on the Shopify channel, it's sort of a win-win in that way. It's a single point. It's a lot less complicated,
Yeah.
which is
How
very
did you
smart.
find sorry, how did you find
Mhm.
the MCF service, by the way? Like,
Well, I
did
mean,
you?
it's been inside of Amazon for a long time. It's part of the seller dashboard, and you can go in
Yeah.
and have been able to, for a long time, create a shipment from any product, an MCF
Yeah.
fulfilled shipment for any product anytime. But there's been systems, and Shopify had an integration at one point they took down
Hmm.
when they launched their marketplace store to go out and do 3PL fulfillment within Shopify's marketplace.
Yeah.
They took that and they removed that software. There's been a couple of third-party softwares that kicked up that allow you to do that in more automated fashion. They're not quite as great, but they still work okay.
Yeah.
And then there's just the good old VA
No, exactly.
for
Exactly.
quality control. They can go and just do the MCF fulfillment orders
For
to
sure.
ensure they're being done correctly. Yeah, but it's a great mechanism, and when the cost and economics, as you said, match up, it may make sense to do that. It
Yeah.
is one of the ways we test products before we actually fully buy them and vet them in the marketplace. So in yours, and if
100%.
somebody's listening, there's an opportunity if your liquids or other product base is too heavy and doesn't necessarily match up with some of the economics you mentioned. What you need to do is look at the gear, accessories, or ancillary products that match
Mhm.
up in Amazon's ecosystem that fit your target demographic.
Yeah.
Because they're already on there buying, they're probably spending $1,000 a year with somebody else, and that's
Mhm.
ripe for you to pick up. Because when they see that product and come in, your packaging can lead them back to your store, and then to the higher liquids and stuff you can ship at higher price points. You can capture them backwards.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
So
that's a clever way of doing that. Just drop shipping somebody else's stuff. So
yeah,
that's
yeah, we can tell you about some more of that. I'll probably tell you that offline. I may know a guy who knows something about this. So
yeah.
tell me a little bit more about your email marketing side. Like, let's dig into this a little bit more in terms of your
Yeah.
model. Explain to people what you're doing over there.
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting. So there's two main areas of that. Like in most businesses, there's an acquisition side of it, and then there's a monetization side of the business. And so on the acquisition side of it, we have a few different ways that we acquire data. So when I say data, just email addresses, right? So there's a
Yeah.
couple of different ways that we do it. The first one that we did for quite some time, we still do it, is basically off of polls, like opinion polls, and they're usually current event type polls. So the great thing about that is you have angles that you can test pretty much daily, weekly, right, with headlines that come out and whatnot. So it kind of gives you a constant stream of like polls that you can test. And
Nice.
so what we'll do is essentially is we'll incentivize somebody to submit their opinion on the poll, and then we might give them like a free gift or a coupon or something else that's kind of aligned with that market vertically, right?
Yeah.
And so, done correctly, you can get leads pretty cheap, right? You can get them under $1. Like depends where you get them from. Facebook, you can get. We've had some angles that get us leads for 35, 40 cents. On YouTube, I have one that's like clockwork. It's always around 90 cents.
Hmm.
We find the data that comes from YouTube though, it doesn't activate as well, which means like let's say you get 1,000 leads come in, you might only be able to get openers, like people opening out of like 6% of it, 6 to 8%, which is pretty low compared, to what we need. So then we always use a metric of cost per clicker because we need clickers is eventually is what we need, right?
Clicks.
So
Hmm.
exactly. And so YouTube data sometimes isn't economical. But we run these polls. We run them on, we might run them on Facebook. We have on YouTube, like I said, but primarily on other email channels, on other email lists. So we might buy email drops on other people's lists and then just get leads that way. That's the best way, in my opinion, to get opt-ins when your model is needing clickers and whatnot, like we need, because those people are all clickers, right? They just clicked and they
Yeah.
all they all came in, right?
Yep.
So that's one big way that we get, especially when we started out. Now, once we had our mailing infrastructure set up and whatnot, and we've been a lot more experienced, we can bring on data with just rev shares, right? So we'll have people who will just give us, data files and whatnot, and we'll just do rev sharing with them. We'll say, okay, well, if we activate 20% of this overall, we'll give 50/50 or whatever it is after sending costs, right? And so
Yeah.
a lot of the big mailers that I know as well, guys who do more volume than us. I mean, we sent about 1.2 billion emails last year,
Wow.
and I know guys that do like 8 to 10x that,
Hmm.
right?
Wow. Right.
Typically not in the, we're in the political, the new current event type space. These guys are usually in like subprime or financial or other stuff. But
The financial mortgage industry. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. The traditional lead gen ones. And
Yeah. Hmm.
those guys almost exclusively do rev share type data. That's where they get their data. They don't typically don't pay for subs or anything like that. And then the other way we get our data is we released a platform recently publicly, but we've been using it for a while. We call it idEngine, and it's essentially an identity resolution platform. So anyone that hits a website, we can take basically 50 to 60% of the people that hit a website and get their valid opt-in email address. We clean it, validate it, do all this sort of stuff, and then we can mail them. Do it all
Excellent.
compliant. It's all compliant. It's all legally
Yeah.
fine to do all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And in the current event space, it's not so bad because people they're just getting news. They're just getting engaging news. So like they'll open, they'll click, and they'll react basically like an opt-in. Like it's pretty crazy to watch. So
Hmm.
yeah, and so
Now, to hone that towards your e-commerce side, are you looking at connecting the dots a little bit about what we talked about in terms of the email, the distribution, and obviously people to serve for your products? Are you looking at kind of combining those two things?
yeah, we do. I mean, let's say the ID Engine platform, like we tested it on our e-commerce store. That was actually where we tested all the upstream data sources that we use and
Gotcha.
all that. So we actually optimized it off revenue per lead, not so much just open deliverability and all that stuff. Because we knew if we could generate X amount of revenue, that the deliverability and the accuracy of the data has to be there. Otherwise, the people aren't going to convert. So that was actually how we optimized it. So yeah, it
Very
originally
nice.
was tested in an e-commerce environment for sure. So
Very cool. So, what's on your docket for this year as you're heading forward into the second half of 2022? What are you focused on? What's your biggest agenda for this year?
yeah, so I mean, a big part of it is in my mailing business, it's in the political space. So, midterms coming up is a big thing. So we're looking to build out, our list bigger and bigger right now. So we'd like to get back up to 1 million active subs. I think right now we're around 600,000 or so. Uh, One of those resets, those ISP resets last year, they knocked a lot of the big
Oh
mailers
yeah,
down. The
yeah,
Verizon issue, yeah, it was a Yahoo AOL thing. So, but we're at about 600,000, I would say, across our ESPs for actives anyway. I'd like to get that back up to 1 million. So that's on the docket. We're working towards that. I think we'll be able to get there because then we go into the 2024 election season and midterms, all that stuff.
yeah.
So it's all kind of aligned there.
Shouldn't be too tough
And
to poke the bear right now. If you do a little conflict marketing, it wouldn't be too hard at this point.
yeah, well, right now at this point, we have a lot of rev share partners who they don't necessarily monetize as well as us, but they can get a
Yeah,
lot of data, a lot of good clicking data. So it's just a good. I actually had a call today with one of them, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't know how to do any of the sponsorship or dedicated list rental stuff you guys do, but we're getting hundreds of thousands of leads a month, so it's like okay, that works. So, we can make something happen. So but you might activate 20-30% of that, so it just how it works out, right? And then yeah, ID Engine is a focus of mine that I'd like to grow and whatnot. I've never
yeah,
really grown a SaaS product, right? So I'm just kind of like it's a new way of doing it. Right now we've been doing mostly just warm outreach kind of in our network, and then like a bit of cold outreach. We'll start running ads and that sort of thing fairly soon, I think. Just to do, we'll just set up a standard kind of book a call and see how it goes and that sort of thing. It's a specific type of customer, right? For this, I mean, we could go and get tons of the low hanging fruit in the e-commerce type markets because
mhm,
that's where some similar solutions have found success.
yeah,
We found that the guys that tend to do best are already mailing a decent amount. We have one e-commerce brand, a subscription brand. So subscription brands are smart for it. We have one right now that is doing a beta test with us, and I think their LTV is like something like 350 or 450 in that range. It's pretty. They have a good stick rate, and
nice,
they had 20 sales out of the first 2,000 leads, which if you extrapolate that to their LTVs, it's an amazing return. So
yeah,
it's like an 8x return, but even on day zero, they're at a positive return. So it's like, okay,
very
great. So
nice.
we're just trying to trying to find like who are the segments of the people to go after and that sort of thing, right? So I think subscription companies are a good one, so as well.
Fantastic, man. Well, thank you for sharing some insights with us today. Is there anything else you would like anybody to know about you, or where to find you, or if they're interested in ID Engine, what's a good qualified person who's listening to this that might be good for what you're doing?
Yeah, so for idEngine, you can check us out at idengine.com. And we do have our agency that we sometimes take on people for just scaling their offers and that sort of thing. That is dsv2.com. So feel free to check us out there. For idEngine, typically we're trying to find people that have over 50,000 visits a month at least, just so that we have a solid amount of lead flow going through, and then we can really hit our highest match rates that way, where we're getting up to like 70-80% of site traffic, which is pretty cool. So
Awesome. Well, guys, go check that out, idengine.com or dsv2.com, depending upon which
that's right.
direction you want to go. Chad, thank you so much for joining me on the call, man.
Oh, it was my pleasure, man. Thank you.